The beginning of the end. For centuries, Earth had been nothing more than a small, forgotten planet, lost in the vastness of the galaxy. The powerful empires of the universe, made up of species far more advanced than humanity, ruled with an iron fist. The Galactic Council, a group of the galaxy's most influential races, had never even considered Earth a threat. Humanity was seen as weak, their technology far behind the rest of the galaxy, their armies small and scattered. Earth's place in the galaxy was simple. They were a resource, a planet that could be exploited and ignored. The alien races had visited Earth before, but each time they took what they wanted and left rarely even acknowledging the humans living there. The people of Earth had been forced to endure alien invasions, manipulation, and control, but they had always survived. They had always endured. That was the nature of humanity, resilience in the face of adversity. But that was about to change. The first warning came in the form of a strange, unmarked signal. Earth's top scientists and engineers were baffled by it. It wasn't like anything they had ever seen. The signal was encrypted for an alien. At first, many assumed it was another failed experiment or some kind of interference. But as days passed, the signal grew stronger, more persistent, until it could no longer be ignored. Earth's governments scrambled to analyze it, but no one knew its origin. No one knew what it meant. They couldn't even be sure if it was a message or a threat. It wasn't long before humanity realized that the signal was coming from a distant part of the galaxy, and it was directed at Earth. The Galactic Council, in their infinite arrogance, had long dismissed humanity as irrelevant. They assumed Earth would be easy to control, its people easily manipulated. After all, the galaxy was filled with much more advanced species, and humanity's history had been full of wars and struggles for survival. The Council had no reason to think that Earth could ever change things. But then something unexpected happened. The signal, once decoded, revealed a message, something so shocking it sent tremors through Earth's scientific community. It wasn't just a message from another race. It was a warning. It warned of an impending invasion. An unknown species, far more powerful than the others, had set its sights on Earth. The message went on to say that humanity was not prepared for what was coming. The invaders would arrive soon, and Earth would not be able to defend itself. The Galactic Council had received the same message, but instead of acting on it, they laughed it off. The idea of a threat capable of defeating them was laughable. They had known no rival for centuries. Earth was far too weak to stand against any galactic power. The Council saw this as a minor inconvenience, a misunderstanding. But Earth's leaders took the warning seriously. They understood that the time for ignoring the threats had passed. The Council may have laughed, but humanity wasn't going to sit idle while the galaxy prepared to see them destroyed. Something had to be done, and soon. But the first challenge was realizing that Earth had no way to fight back. Their technology was outdated, and their military was small. Earth's leaders knew that even if they could develop a weapon to fight back, they would need more than just technology. They would need something far greater: unity. Humans had never been united before on such a scale. Their history had been marked by wars, divisions, and political strife. But now, with an alien threat looming, there was no time for differences. Earth had to come together. The world's greatest minds began to work together. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders from all corners of Earth collaborated to build something capable of facing the impending invasion. Earth needed to develop technology that would stand up to the galaxy's mightiest empires. They had to create a weapon that could strike fear into the hearts of those who thought Earth was too weak to matter. The first step was simple. They had to repurpose what they had. The Galactic Council had sent Earth scraps, old technology, broken ships, and discarded systems. The Council had assumed the humans wouldn't know how to use them. It was a simple act of arrogance, one the Council would soon regret. Humanity's engineers went to work, analyzing the scraps with an intensity and focus they had never applied before. What the Council thought was useless, humanity began to reshape into something far more dangerous. The warship they built was not only based on alien technology, but it was something new, something uniquely human. It was built from the scraps, but it was strong, fast, and lethal. In a matter of weeks, Earth's first true warship was born. It wasn't just a symbol of defense, it was a statement to the galaxy that humanity was no longer weak, that they had the power to protect themselves, that they would no longer be a passive target for the Empires to exploit. As the warship's engines powered up for the first time, Earth's leaders knew they had done something unprecedented. They had taken the remnants of an alien technology, something the galaxy had discarded, and turned it into a weapon capable of changing the balance of power. The Council's mistake had been not realizing that humanity was not just a species to be ignored. They were a species capable of doing the unthinkable. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and soon it would regret it. The transmission was ready. The warning had been sent. Now, the real battle was about to begin. The Council's mistake. The galaxy had always been a place where the strong ruled, and the weak simply obeyed. For centuries, the Galactic Council had maintained a fragile balance of power, their influence reaching across hundreds of star systems. They controlled trade, dictated peace, and decided the fate of countless civilizations. Earth was never considered a threat to this order. It was just another backwater planet on the edge of known space, struggling to survive while the rest of the galaxy thrived. The Galactic Council had a simple view of Earth. To them, humanity was primitive only, a small, insignificant species that had barely begun to explore space. The first time the Council sent representatives to Earth, they had expected little more than a quick visit to collect resources and observe the progress of humanity's space exploration. The humans had nothing to offer in return. No advanced technology, no powerful fleet, no significant military might. But what the Council failed to realize was that humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology, but in its ability to adapt, innovate, and survive. The arrogance of the Council blinded them to Earth's potential. They assumed that giving Earth's leaders a few scraps of alien technology would be enough to keep them quiet, just another token gift from a powerful race to a backward species. But that was where they went wrong. Those scraps weren't just discarded pieces of technology. They were the seeds for something far greater than the Council could have ever imagined. When Earth's scientists and engineers got their hands on the alien technology, they didn't just see it as an artifact to study, they saw it as an opportunity to push the boundaries of what humanity was capable of. The scraps, broken and discarded by the Council, were re-engineered and repurposed in ways no one expected. Humanity took what was given to them and transformed it into something that could rival the greatest warships the galaxy had ever known. At first, the Galactic Council paid little attention. Their representatives were far more focused on their larger empires, the more powerful species that had been their allies for centuries. They thought the humans were merely tinkering with alien technology, just as they had done in the past with their other planets. The Council didn't know that Earth had begun building a ship that could one day challenge their might. when the first transmission was sent. Warning the Council of Humanity's newfound strength, it was dismissed. As a joke. How could a species that barely understood the basics of space warfare pose a real threat? The message was ignored, and the Council continued to focus on their own political games, making decisions that kept their empires powerful and Earth's future uncertain. But the mistake the Council made was a costly one. As humanity's warship took shape, it became clear that this wasn't just a defensive measure, it was a weapon that could change everything. The Galactic Council's arrogance had led them to believe that Earth was no more than a nuisance. They thought they could control the humans, that Earth's resistance was just a phase. What they didn't anticipate was the speed with which humanity could adapt to new technology. Earth's engineers weren't just replicating alien designs, they were improving them, using their own ingenuity to create something far more advanced than the Council had ever expected. And as Earth's warship powered up for its first test, humanity's leaders began to realize that they were no longer at the mercy of the Council. They had created something that could challenge the very empires that had once thought of Earth as nothing more than a resource to exploit. They had done what no one believed was possible. They had taken the scraps of a galaxy that didn't care about them and turned them into a weapon of unimaginable power. The Galactic Council continued to dismiss the threat, but Earth's leaders knew that they were on the edge of something monumental. They had built a weapon that could make the galaxy take notice. The only question now was how the Council would react. Would they continue to ignore humanity, or would they realize their mistake before it was too late? The transmission had been sent, the warning had been made. The Council had ignored it, but they wouldn't be able to dismiss Earth's power for much longer. The unseen strength of Eartha. First signs of humanity's newfound power were subtle. At first, the Galactic Council, still dismissive of Earth's growing capabilities, continued with their political games, assuming the humans would remain insignificant. But behind the scenes, Earth's leaders were preparing. With the construction of the warship nearly complete, humanity knew they could no longer afford to be passive. The time had come to act. They had been underestimated for far too long. The warship, constructed from the scraps of alien technology provided by the Galactic Council, was humanity's secret weapon. It wasn't just a ship, it was a masterpiece of human ingenuity, designed with the best elements of Earth's scientific minds, combined with the alien tech they had been gifted. The warship wasn't just a vessel, it was a symbol of what humanity could achieve when they had the chance to fight back. No longer would they be seen as weak. No longer would they be ignored. What the Galactic Council had failed to realize was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in the weapons they had developed. It was in their relentless drive to overcome obstacles. Earth's engineers had taken the alien technology and improved it, using techniques that the galaxy's most advanced species had never even considered. Where others saw junk, humanity saw potential. Where others thought they were helpless, humanity saw an opportunity to turn the tide of history. As the warship was finally completed and the first tests began, Earth's leaders couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. They had done the impossible. The power of the ship was undeniable. It could match the might of any fleet in the galaxy, and it was capable of delivering devastating strikes that would leave their enemies in ruins. But even as they marveled at what they had accomplished, they knew that the real test was yet to come. The Galactic Council still hadn't recognized Earth's strength, and soon they would have to. Across the galaxy, the news of Earth's new warship began to spread. The first whispers were filled with disbelief. How could a species that had been considered weak and unworthy of notice suddenly possess a weapon capable of challenging the mightiest empires in the galaxy? The shock waves rippled through the most powerful factions in the galaxy. The Vixar Empire, the Kazark, and the Zensarial of them had once seen Earth as little more than a resource. But now they were starting to realize that Earth wasn't the easy target they had assumed. The Council had once believed they could manipulate and control Earth, but humanity had proven them wrong. They had shown that they could turn the most useless scraps into a weapon of unimaginable power. Now, the question was no longer whether Earth could defend itself. It was whether the Galactic Council could handle a species that refused to bow down. But even as Earth's leaders prepared to make their move, they were aware that the galaxy wasn't going to roll over. The Galactic Council was a powerful entity, and they would not easily accept a new rival. Earth's rise had shaken the galaxy, but it was far from over. If humanity wanted to secure their place among the stars, they would have to face the full might of the Council and its allies, and they would have to do it with a weapon they had created from nothing. The tension was rising. The time was coming for Earth to send its message, to prove that they would not be the weaklings of the galaxy anymore. The transmission would be sent, but this time it wouldn't be just a warning. It would be a declaration that humanity had come to claim their place in the galaxy, and they wouldn't be silenced or ignored any longer. The Galactic Council's response, the message from Earth had arrived. Humanity, once viewed as a weak and insignificant species, had sent a transmission that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. It wasn't just a plea for help or a desperate cry for mercy. No, it was far more powerful. It was a challenge. The humans had declared that they were no longer to be ignored, no longer to be trampled upon by the larger, more advanced empires of the galaxy. They had proven themselves in their first victory and had shown that their power was not to be underestimated. The Galactic Council, composed of the galaxy's most powerful races, sat in a chamber lit by the cold light of distant stars. They had received Earth's message, and it was unlike anything they had ever expected. To their dismay, they had underestimated humanity, assuming they could exploit the planet for resources, control its people, and push them around as they had done to so many others. Now, the Council was faced with the undeniable reality that humanity was not the meek, defenseless species they had once believed them to be. Earth had a weapon, one that could match even the most formidable fleets in the galaxy. The warship, constructed from the remnants of alien technology, was just the beginning. It was a glimpse into humanity's potential. But what would the Galactic Council do now? At first, the Council was divided. Some members, those who believed in maintaining the old order, called for immediate retaliation. They urged the other empires to show humanity their place in the galaxy, to remind them that they were still beneath the most powerful species. They believed that humanity's rise could not go unchallenged if Earth was allowed to keep growing. In strength, it could inspire rebellion among other planets, threatening the Council's grip on power. But others in the Council, more pragmatic in their thinking, saw the potential of this moment. The fact that humanity had risen so quickly was a testament to their strength and adaptability. There was power in the human spirit that could not be ignored. Perhaps, instead of destroying Earth, the Council should seek a new approach. What if humanity could be useful? What if Earth could become an ally, a key player in the galactic order, instead of an enemy? The debate raged on, with the decision swinging back and forth. Some members argued that humanity needed to be crushed before it grew too powerful. Others feared that to strike Earth would invite an all-out war, one they might not win. Given the new strength humanity had shown, the Council's arrogance had been shaken, but they couldn't agree on how to handle the situation. Back on Earth, humanity was watching closely. They knew the Council was divided, and they knew they were not yet safe. The transmission was just the beginning. The Council's response would determine the future of Earth. But humanity had already made one thing clear. They were not afraid. They were ready to face whatever came next. The leaders of Earth gathered in secret, preparing for the worst but hoping for the best. They knew the Galactic Council would not simply give up their control over the galaxy. But what they didn't know was that the transmission had already planted a seed of doubt among the most powerful empires. The Council's infallibility had been challenged, and now other species were beginning to wonder, could Earth be a legitimate force? Could humanity rise to become a new power in the galaxy? As the Council's deliberations continued, Earth's forces did not sit idle. The warship, now repaired and fully operational, was ready for any confrontation. Humanity was preparing to stand their ground. They had faced invasion before, they had fought back before, and now they were ready to face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The message was clear. Earth would not go quietly into the night. They would fight, adapt, and grow stronger with every challenge. The battle for survival. The galactic tension was palpable. Every species, from the powerful Vixar to the smaller, oppressed planets, had begun to take notice of humanity's rise. The Galactic Council, still divided over how to handle Earth, had taken the first step. They sent their fleets, but this time, it wasn't just about proving a point. It was about survival. The Council, in all its arrogance, had underestimated humanity for the last time. The battle lines were drawn. Earth's forces, once a small, scattered defense, now stood united under one banner. The warship, the symbol of humanity's strength, was ready, and the fleet humanity had begun to build was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had taken the scraps of alien technology, refashioned them, and created a force that could challenge even the most powerful empires. Humanity's resilience and innovation had turned what was once thought to be an insignificant race into a true threat. As the first wave of the Council's fleet entered Earth's solar system, the humans readied themselves for the fight of their lives. Their warship, heavily modified and armed with new weaponry, was their spearhead. It was designed not just to defend Earth, but to strike fear into the hearts of the galaxy's greatest empires. The message from Earth was clear. No longer would they bow to the will of the Council. No longer would they be a resource to be exploited. The battle began with the flash of energy beams as both sides opened fire. The Council's ships were enormous, with advanced technology that dwarfed anything Earth had ever seen. But the humans, using their intelligence and resourcefulness, had created a fleet that was faster, more agile, and capable of striking without warning. Their warships danced between the larger, slower Council vessels, delivering devastating blows that crippled their defenses. At first, the Council commanders were stunned. Their superior numbers and technology seemed insufficient to deal with this new threat. Earth's warships, though small in number, were more than a match for the Council's mighty fleets. The humans had adapted quickly, taking advantage of every weakness in their enemies' tactics. They were using guerrilla-style attacks, striking in places the Council had never expected. The Zansari, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, had been deployed in a direct assault on Earth. They arrived with a fleet designed for swift and brutal destruction, their warships bristling with weapons meant to level entire planets. But the humans had one advantage the Zensari had never faced before: fearless ingenuity. Earth's warships fought with unmatched precision, disabling the Centauria's ships one by one, using tactics they had never seen before. The Zen, once thought to be invincible, found themselves losing ground as humanity's warships cut through their defenses like a hot knife through butter. As the battle escalated, the humans pushed further into enemy territory. The tide was turning, but Earth's leaders knew that this victory would not come without sacrifice. They had lost many ships, and the warship was taking heavy damage. But the humans were determined. They were no longer fighting just for survival, they were fighting for their future in the galaxy. In the midst of the chaos, a new threat emerged. The Vixar, unable to accept their defeat, had rallied their forces in secret. They arrived at the edge of Earth's defenses, their ships massive and heavily armed. They had learned from their previous mistakes. They wouldn't underestimate humanity again. The Vixar joined forces with the remaining Zensari fleet, creating an alliance with one goal: to wipe humanity off the map once and for all. The battle became a brutal clash of empires. The combined strength of the Vixar and Zensari forces seemed unstoppable, their weapons capable of eradicating entire fleets with a single shot. But the humans weren't backing down. They used every trick in their arsenal, fighting with a determination that shocked their enemies. Earth's warship, now heavily damaged but still functional, led the charge, tearing through the enemy lines and causing the Vixar and Zensari forces to rethink their tactics. Humanity was not just surviving, they were fighting with everything. They had, as the hours passed, the battle reached its peak. The space around Earth became a war zone, filled with debris and burning wreckage from both sides. Earth's fleet had suffered losses, but they had held their ground. The Vixar and Zensari, despite their overwhelming power, were losing. And then, at the last moment, Earth's warship made its final push, delivering a devastating blow to the Vixar's flagship. The massive ship exploded in a burst of light, sending shockwaves through the remaining enemy fleets. The tide had turned. The Vixar and Zensari, caught off guard by the resilience and ingenuity of humanity, began to retreat. Their fleets, once so confident in their power, were now shattered. Earth had won. Against all odds, they had proven that they were no longer a weak species to be trampled upon. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would fight for their place among the stars. Earth's victory and the new order. The smoke from the battle still hung in the dark expanse of space, a grim reminder of the chaos that had unfolded just hours before. Earth's warships, battered and scorched, slowly pulled back into orbit, victorious but scarred. The combined fleets of the Vixar and Zensari had been defeated. The once unstoppable empires of the galaxy now lay in ruins, retreating back to the shadows from which they had come. Humanity had fought against overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. But the victory came at a price. As Earth's leaders watched their warships return home, the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on them. The battle had proved that humanity was no longer the underdog, but a powerful force capable of standing against the galaxy's greatest threats. Yet the victory was bittersweet. Thousands of lives had been lost, entire fleets had been destroyed, and Earth's warship, once a symbol of humanity's power, was now a wreck, its hull pocked with damage. Still, there was a sense of pride. Humanity had proven their strength. They had turned the tide of a battle that had seemed impossible, had fought against two of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, and had come out on top. The Council had underestimated them, and now the galaxy would have to reckon with their newfound power. Yet, as the celebrations began on Earth, a sense of foreboding still lingered. The Zensari and Vixar empires may have been pushed back, but their defeat was only temporary. The war was far from over. Other empires, those that had once been neutral or too distant to be involved, were already watching Earth closely. The galaxy was filled with powerful species who might not take too kindly to humanity's newfound strength. Earth's leaders knew this victory, though monumental, would not be the end. They had earned their place in the galaxy, but maintaining that place would require constant vigilance. Humanity had done the impossible. But now they had to face the next challenge: how to navigate their new role in the galaxy. Earth had fought for its survival and emerged victorious, but the galaxy's greatest empires were not the only threat. There were many others, and the vast reaches of space were still full of unknowns. Humanity had made its mark, but what would they do next? The Galactic Council, watching from the shadows, had seen the message sent loud and clear. Earth was not to be ignored. The Council, once supreme and filled with the arrogance of centuries of unchallenged power, was now left to reconsider its strategies. The power dynamics of the galaxy had shifted. No longer could they treat humanity as insignificant. Earth had stood up to them, and now they were forced to respect the humans. But would that respect last? Behind closed doors, the Council deliberated on their next steps. Some factions were eager to strike Earth before it could grow even stronger. Others, recognizing humanity's resilience and ingenuity, suggested forming an alliance. The idea of Earth becoming a powerful ally, a dangerous adversary, was not one the Council took lightly. On Earth, however, the situation was equally uncertain. Earth's leaders had been preparing for the worst, but even they knew that winning the battle was just the first step. They had proven they could defend themselves, but now they had to secure peace. Humanity's victory could not be a one-time fluke. It had to be the beginning of a new era where Earth was a key player in the galaxy's politics. As Earth's fleet drifted back toward their home planet, the whispers of new alliances, new challenges, and new threats began to echo across the stars. Humanity's name had been spoken with fear. But what would happen when the dust of the battle settled? Would Earth continue to rise, or would new forces from the galaxy's far reaches make their move? The war had been won, but the future of humanity in the galaxy was far from certain. Earth had proven its strength, but now the question remained: how would they wield it? The new era, the aftermath of the battle, left Earth's skies quiet, but beneath the silence, the hum of change was palpable. Humanity had done what no one thought possible: defeated two of the galaxy's greatest empires. Earth's warship, a symbol of their strength and ingenuity, now stood proudly, battered but unbroken, on the front lines of a new era. The galaxy had been forced to reconsider its view of Earth. The once dismissed species now had a place at the table. But how would they use their newfound power? Humanity, standing at the crossroads of history, faced a choice that could shape the future of the entire galaxy. For the first time, Earth had the chance to lead not just as survivors, but as a force that could change the galaxy's course. Yet, this newfound power came with immense responsibility. The challenge ahead was not just to defend Earth, but to navigate the complex and treacherous political landscape of galactic diplomacy. The Council may have underestimated humanity's strength, but now, humanity had to prove that they could wield their power wisely. The Galactic Council, though stunned by Earth's victory, could no longer ignore humanity. The diplomatic factions within the Council had begun to shift. Some members called for peace and collaboration, urging the other empires to recognize Earth as an equal, while others saw humanity's rise as a direct threat to their centuries of dominance. For the first time in history, Earth's voice could not be silenced. The Vixar, though defeated, still lingered in the shadows, quietly rebuilding their forces. The Zensari, driven by pride and anger, began to regroup, watching Earth closely. But it wasn't just the known enemies that humanity had to worry about. There were factions in the galaxy who had never been part of the Council, smaller empires, who had been living in the shadows, waiting for a moment like this to rise up. Humanity was now a target for both old enemies and new threats. Despite these dangers, Earth's leaders knew that retreating into the background was no longer an option. They had the power to shape their future, but they had to act quickly and decisively. The universe had seen humanity fight and win, but now they had to show that they could be more than just warriors. They had to show they could lead, protect, and build alliances that would secure their place in the galaxy, humanity's. Decision to form alliances with smaller, oppressed species was their first major step toward peace. The galaxy's smallest civilizations, those who had long been crushed under the weight of the galaxy's great empires, began to look to Earth for leadership. The humans had proven that it was possible to rise up, to fight back, and to win. They had become a beacon of hope for those who had never before dared to challenge the status quo. Yet, even as Earth began to rebuild and lead, there were those who feared the rise of this new power. Some empires began to form alliances of their own, preparing for the inevitable confrontation with humanity. The question was no longer whether Earth would survive. It was whether humanity would maintain its place as an equal in the galaxy. Would they rise to lead the galaxy into a new age, or would the old empires unite to crush them before they could reach their full potential? In the quiet moments after the battle, as Earth's leaders gathered to plan their next steps, they knew one thing for certain: they had earned their place in the stars. They had taken a stand and proven that no matter how impossible the odds, humanity would always fight back. The next chapter of humanity's story was yet to be written. But one thing was clear: the galaxy would never forget the day when Earth's name was whispered with fear, respect, and awe. The war was over. The galaxy would change forever. Earth had risen to power, but how they would wield it was still unknown. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the universe had been put on notice. The new era had begun, and Earth was at the helm.